Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. Well, I think it's safe to say that I'm a pretty big fan of the extra credits team and what they do, with Extra History being one of my favorite shows. But upon completing their Sengoku Jidai series, I was left spending a lot of time thinking about the Sengoku Basara games. To those of you that don't know, the Sengoku Basara series is loosely based off of peoples and events of the Japanese Warring States era, or Sengoku Jidai. But the characters that always interested me the most were the three Shogun, Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Ieyasu Tokugawa. Even though the game takes great liberties with the history it's supposed to represent, I've always wondered if there's much in the way of similarities between these three men in game and who they are in real life. It's obvious that all three of them are impossibly over the top, but I've learned to never take that at face value. So let's have a gander and see how good or bad Sengoku Basara depicts three of Japan's most powerful men in history. Let's start with Oda Nobunaga. It's painfully obvious that this guy is supposed to be the major game villain. He's got demon-looking armor, the stereotypical black, dark red color motif, and he's about as subtle in world domination as Ganon. On top of that though, in every version of the game he's in, he's always using a gun. While this is an obvious exaggeration in Nobunaga's character, it's not as far-fetched as you might think. Oda Nobunaga wanted to unify Japan, yes, but he was willing to do whatever it took to get there. He was ruthless, cunning, and to an extent kind of a liar in order to obtain total control over Japan. He kidnapped a Matsudaira heir in order to blackmail the entire clan into betraying their alliance to a rival of Oda, the Imigawa. He planned to double-cross Yoshiaki, the rightful heir to the old shogunate, in order to seize power for himself. He was also completely enthralled by the invention of the firearm, using it whenever he could. To a samurai, guns were a cowardly weapon used by Ashigaru infantry and other lesser-ranked warriors, and it had no place in the hands of an honorable samurai. Nobunaga, in all reality, was malicious to the point of being evil and dishonorable. And time hasn't helped his image in any way illustrated by this game. History has remembered him as a brutal, dishonorable tyrant, and it shows. Next is Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and wow! It may not look obvious, but I think the Basara games took his character even further than Nobunaga. In the game, Hideyoshi is just this massive brute who just crushes everything in his way with his bare fists. Though not obviously evil like Nobunaga, Hideyoshi's attitude and fighting style is one of a lawful evil tyrant, someone who keeps control through intimidation. And have you seen his chops? This dude looks and fights like a gorilla more than anything. And believe it or not, there's a very good reason for this. In life, Toyotomi Hideyoshi wasn't nearly as ruthless as Nobunaga. He wanted to unify Japan, and end the massive bloodshed that prevailed. However, Hideyoshi sought out his peace under an iron fist. Under his rule, only samurai were allowed to carry swords on their person in order to disarm rabble-rousers. He forced farmers and fiefs to stay on their original land and never be able to move in order to curb bandits and stabilize a tax system. He brought about the caste system that Japan is still feeling the ripples of today. All of this, though, for the greater good. In a way, Hideyoshi succeeded in the first reorganization of Japan for the true better, but at the cost of many freedoms. As such, Sengoku Basara takes his legacy of control and overpowering presence and transforms Hideyoshi from a fairly small man to the personification of his ambition, needing nothing but himself to overpower all challenges that come before him. And believe it or not, his gorilla-like appearance is attributed to his legacy of people thinking he looked like a monkey. Kinda silly, but it fits. Lastly is the literal golden boy Ieyasu Tokugawa. In-game, he's presented as the stereotypical energetic, happy, but determined pretty boy by Japan standards. The only thing he ever seems to talk about in this game is unifying and bringing peace to Japan in that war is bad kind of way, instead of abusing power like Nobunaga and Hideyoshi did.
I fight in the name of peace! May my fists unite all!
He also lacks any weapon, instead using his fists. Honestly, a seemingly strange choice since he doesn't have giant meaty monkey hands like Hideyoshi. But in the whole, Sengoku Basara paints Tokugawa as the guy you should root for, and there's a very good reason for that. See, in Japan today, Tokugawa is spoken highly in most instances as the greatest unifier of Japan. And yes, his lineage was one that finally ended the backstabbing bloodshed in Japan once and for all, but unlike Nobunaga and Hideyoshi, he did so not strictly through force, but by peaceful methods. First of all, Tokugawa knew how to make money work for him. He had loans and investments through many of the other clans, which helped discourage said clans from rising against him. He also established his son Hidetada as successor far before his death, which solidified his family rule. This kept other clans from questioning his authority. He even spared usurpers like Ishida Matsunari that tried to have him assassinated. In nearly every chance that was presented to him, Tokugawa used an alternate method to settle conflict, not by the sword, but by the coin. And perhaps this is why Tokugawa is what he is in Sengoku Basara. Using his golden fists instead of a sword or spear symbolizes his ability to non-violently end conflict, most of the time with money. His kind demeanor symbolizing his capacity for mercy, even upon his most hated enemies, and his constant talk of harmoniously unifying Japan by spoken recruitment over brute force symbolizing, well, Tokugawa's real-life ability to win people over with non-violent supportive action. So, oddly enough, even though Sengoku Basara really goes out of its way to put an anime-style filter on history, it does so without forgetting the legacy of the three shogun. There's a saying that my first Japanese teacher, Kinko Ito, taught me. In an attempt to hear the Song of the Warbler, Nobunaga said, "Sing for me or I will kill you." Hideyoshi said, "I will make you sing." And Tokugawa said, "I will wait until you call." To this day, I believe this saying really does reflect the three great unifiers of Japan. And while Sengoku Basara may seem like an over-the-top retelling of some of Japan's most important history, I think it does so fully understanding the truth behind these men. And if you want to get the full story on the rise and fall of the three great shogun of Japan, click here to check out Extra Credit Team's Extra History Sengoku Jidai. I think they did a great job explaining and illustrating Japan's most complicated and crucial historical period. And hey, my wife just started her own show called Aki's Pixel Pets. In her debut episode, she talks about how the infamous Legend of Zelda Cuckoo actually exists in real life. Click here to check it out. And as always, be sure to subscribe to catch the latest in Theorists videos. Until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah signing out.